welcome everybody to another episode of the Dynasty Doctor. Thank you so much for coming here today. I have my good friend Kyle here with me. Once again, this is a show about having my friends on, breaking down what they have on their mind. But just really quickly, I'm going to promote my Twitter page. If you do not already follow and subscribe, please do. I am a new show trying to get this going. But without further ado, Kyle, go ahead and introduce
Yeah.
yourself.
Thanks for having me on, Sean. This is now my second time. First time was in the startup. So, I'm just happy, excited to get into this. This is fun, just talking fantasy football, getting together. Now that the season's over officially with the Super Bowl, back to what everyone wants to do, start looking at the rookie drafts and looking into the NFL rookie draft. So I've been doing fantasy about 10, 15 years actually. I have 11 leagues now, 6 of them Dynasty. So, I'm very familiar, ready to get going.
And that's awesome. And thank you again for coming on. I've been trying to get you on for a while now. You've really been helping me get this going. So this is going to be a really fun episode. So we spoke before you came on today about a couple of topics on your mind. Some veterans that you're interested in bringing up, some pretty old guys, and we're going to break down their buy sell, maybe pull up some trades, and see what their current value is. And then after that, we were planning on looking into some rookie mock drafts, some actual drafts about the last couple of years and really discuss how things have played out. I'll probably be interested from a pre-combine standpoint to where these guys were, to where they ended up, but it'll be really interesting to look back on some of these years' rookie drafts to compare it to today. And then the second half of today's episode, really excited to look into these tight end rankings with you. We currently have 2 rookies in the top 10 Dynasty tight end rankings. It's a little surprise, 2 guys that haven't even been drafted yet, but we will get there in the second half of today's episode. So why don't you go ahead, and Kyle, and let's just hop right into it. Give me a couple of names, or give me a name that comes to mind for a veteran that maybe you're interested in buying or selling, or that you want to break down.
Yeah. And this is, I like to do this in the beginning of the year because everyone's looking to get back in the draft, and you want to get rid of the guys that are, trending down, that, still have that big name, but, have been dipping. And there's a lot of guys out there that have hit that 30 plus mark in the receiver range. That, do they still have it, or is that time to sell? 2 guys I'll bring up right away: Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill. What do you value them? What do you think you need to trade? And do you see them? Well, Mike Evans has really stayed, steady, just getting to that age of 31. Tyreek Hill has kind of dipped, but he was at that higher level, I think. He was in that top 5 range. So it's really pretty close for me. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I definitely agree. These are 2 guys we see here over the age of 31, listed practically back-to-back, just a couple of points on Keep Trade Cut. When I looked at this a few days ago, Tyreek Hill was wide receiver 34. If I had to choose, I feel like I would be leaning Mike Evans in terms of recency bias. I see Tampa Bay trying to get him another 1,000-yard season, and I see Tyreek Hill with 1 foot out the door. So that seems to be the conversation that we've had the last couple of years, that he's interested in playing out this contract and moving on. I feel like he's not happy. That was the consensus at the end of the season, that he wasn't happy with whether it be Tua or the Dolphins in general. So certainly have a lot more confidence in Mike Evans going forward, that he's going to stay the course, and I think just simply be more consistent.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Mike Evans is the safer option. He's with Baker. Godwin's going to be a free agent, so he could be leaving. More, volume coming to Mike Evans. And Tyreek Hill is just risky with Tua. Whenever Tua was out, Tyreek Hill was nothing. You couldn't play him. So there's a lot of risk in that offense. When it's cold out, Tua gets a little. So Baker Mayfield seems like the safer QB to play with. I would be going with Mike Evans, one of the 2. But, both of them intrigue me to grab if I'm a contending team. But if I'm selling them off, what would you need? Like a late first, early second? What are you thinking?
Oh, man. Well, if we can pull it up right here. So let's say Tyreek Hill, for example. If you're just simply looking at someone that has we all have those friends in the league that use that's not going to be close. They use they use keep trade cut like gospel. So if you are trying to buy one of these players, we're looking at a mid second right here, Kyle. We're looking at somewhere between the 201 and the 205, probably right around that 203 range for Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans. I know if I was a competitor or someone that was competing, felt like I had a chance to next year, I might be interested in buying. I don't know about my late first. If obviously say you had a good run, you made the semis last season, you have a late first, maybe try to get something back. See if you can do that late first for Tyreek and a late second, or even an early third, something like that, if you're dependent upon who you're interested in.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm selling, I'm offering for a late first, and I would sell him for that early second, and I'm right on the fence. If I'm contending, I'm probably holding on to him. If I'm thinking about rebuilding, early second can probably get him. So it depends where you are.
So once again, and take your pick, Tyreek Hill or Mike Evans. Looking at it, because we have them both back to back here. If you just lost in the semifinals last year and you're competing and you want to compete next year and you have the 109, would you move the 109 for Mike Evans in the 303?
Yeah, that's right on. It depends if you're a contending team. Yeah, I mean, I usually don't like buying older players in the off season. I more try to buy them at the deadline if I am contending. So, if I'm in that position, I'm probably not spending the 109 to go get Mike Evans. I'd rather take a chance on a rookie receiver that could put up, similar production. There's been a lot of receivers in that late first round that, pop off in their first or second year. So, Mike Evans is probably have a year or two left. You don't want to be caught with the guy that, just goes to nothing. So
that's tough because I could see and now I do agree. I think right now, today, in the middle of February, if I own the 109, I'm not making this deal. As the draft comes closer, the Mike Evans owner is going to be scrambling. He's so old. You can absolutely get more, but I don't hate the idea of investing in a older wide receiver if you feel like you're one piece away.
Yeah.
But yeah, then first round picks as we get closer to the draft definitely feel pretty rich. Let's go back, Kyle. Give me another name, or give me another couple of names of an older guy that you're maybe looking to buy or sell this offseason, or that you have some questions around.
This is a fresh one. Kelsey, what do you think? Like, is he wash? Do you just sell him for whatever you get, or does he have a bounce back year?
I mean, are you going to wait until he announces his retirement or not? Can we even find him on Keep Trade Cut right now? Oh my goodness. Tight end 23, right next to Noah Gray, his teammate.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's insulting. If I had Travis Kelce right now, I would probably be trying to sell on the name. If he announced,
what gets it done? If someone offered you a late second, you would accept that?
I think it depends where I'm at. If I'm competing and I felt like if I need him, I would be willing to wait to see if he comes back one more year. Because if he announces one more year, that's a starting tight end on a competing dynasty roster.
Yeah.
Now it's only for one more year, but I don't care if you're putting up top 5 or 10 numbers. There's very little that I can do with the 209 or the 210, especially next year. That draft pick is not winning you championships. So once again, go for it.
I just think what I've seen, I think he's mostly gone to, even this year, he wasn't a tight end 1 probably. Like he was tight end 15 maybe? I mean, maybe he was top 10. But I just think that for possibly one more year and, it's late, top 10, maybe top 15 tight ends, it's just not worth it. I would take a second right away. Someone offered mid, late, anything.
So, I mean, he still had he finished 6th, so it's just outside the top 5.
Yeah.
Had more targets than last year, had more receptions than last year, had the fewest yards and touchdowns of his
Yeah.
career since his rookie season.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Since his rookie season in 2013, which he only played one game. So if you
Yeah.
take out the season he only played one game, this was the worst season of Travis Kelce's career.
Oh,
Outside
for
of
sure.
maybe only by a yards or touchdown, but I think because of the expectation of where he was drafted.
Yeah.
But I think for me, a lot of it comes down to team structure. If I was anywhere near a rebuild, I would be looking to sell, especially if he does announce that he's coming back, because then you're looking at probably an early second. I think you could get somebody on that name value who
Mm.
I'm one piece away. I'm a starting tight
Yeah.
end away from a championship. Is Travis Kelce that piece that the
Yeah.
203 is enough to get it done?
Yeah. I mean, if you can get that value, I would take it.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so I just think getting Rashee Rice, Worthy's going to be a sophomore. They just have a lot more pieces that they're phasing Kelsey out of the offense. Maybe he'll, stick around for one more year. I still think it's going to be trending downwards. Maybe you could get a top 10
Mm-hmm.
year out of him, but still a second rounder, you could still hit a very good player, even a late second rounder. So I've learned to really invest more in the draft. Once this guy is a year away from retiring, get a second rounder if you can.
And I think that's the whole thing about Dynasty, is trying to get out a year early than a year late. You never want to be stuck holding the bag. And Travis Kelce is a good example of, he doesn't have more than a year left. So it's either 0 or 1. It's either, is the guy going to retire? If he announces he's
Yeah.
coming back, it's really going to be for one more year. But I agree. I think that's another guy that if
Like
you do get a good offer, I
offseason,
don't hate it.
last offseason, you could have maybe got a late first, and now it's gone down to like a second almost. So
Mhm.
it seems to be going downhill quick.
I agree. Yo, your camera's shaking quite a bit. Is it like on your laptop or something? I feel like maybe you're like leaning your.
It's on like the top of my monitor.
Maybe because you're like leaning. I feel like I see your video shaking a lot.
Yeah.
It's all good, but
Sorry.
no, you're good.
Let me
Just
try to
just wanted
improve
to
this.
just wanted to point it out. Go ahead and give me
Yeah, let me
another
get
name though after Kelsey that's on your mind.
Yeah, let's go with Cooper Kupp. What do you think? I
Yes.
mean, that's a tough one because he's a free agent or going to be traded, but still feels like he has some left in him.
Let me even see if I can find him on here, and I wonder if I. There's no way he's outside the top 50, is he?
I wouldn't think so, but that's crazy. Yeah, maybe.
Whoa, whoa.
Did I see him? No. Yeah, I guess he's past that. Yeah, he has to be past that.
Yeah, wide receiver 58, right next to Marvin Mims. If I had Marvin Mims and somebody offered me Cooper Kupp, I might run and buy a lottery ticket. I don't know what I was gonna say, but um,
Yeah,
I understand the concern, but the talent is there for a guy who has said he wants to play again. I mean, if you look at some of these names around him, wow, Cedric Tillman. I mean, we're Jalen Coker. I think some of
yeah,
these veterans, we can even bring up another name right now, Devontae Adams. I see him right
yeah.
here, a wide receiver, 54, 32.2 years old. Guy's going to be close to 33. Cooper Kupp's going to be over 32 by the time the season starts. Let me put it on
See,
you. Which one would you rather have, even if you're
for
competing?
me,
Yeah.
Devontae Adams showed me a lot more last year. Like he had some big blow up games, even with the Jets struggling. Like he put up some big games. Cup, I don't remember him putting up too many monster games last year. Like he was definitely behind Puka, obviously, but it just didn't seem like he had much going for him last
So
year.
let's see
What
here.
kind of
Yeah, Cooper Kupp flash in game one. He had the stretch. He had the stretch from weeks 8 to 13, where I'm assuming Puka's out. I mean, let's go ahead and just pull up Puka right now, because they almost traded injuries. That was the whole thing last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
they both played. They were just both having some good numbers. But if you look at their season as a whole, Cup finished at wide receiver 40. Adams finished wide receiver 14. Yeah, those are that's a bit different, especially down the stretch here. Adams had that big 41 game.
Adams really blew up at the end. I mean, I didn't realize Cup had a good stretch for like that.
It's because the last 3 weeks, the fantasy playoffs, he let you down, and even going back to week 13, 4 out of 5 weeks he let you down.
Yep, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It really does.
Honestly, leaving Stafford is not what he wants either. Stafford has always proven to, feed his guys. He can land in a good spot, but it's just there's a lot of spots that could be way worse. So
I think
until he is on a team, I think it's hard to trade for him.
I think for me, what it really comes down to is the landing spot, though, and if you were to trade for them now, you would be trading with the anticipation of a good landing spot. I mean, could you imagine Cooper Kupp as the wide receiver 2 on Washington? I would be
that's a great
ecstatic,
spot, yeah.
and I think that's the ideal landing spot. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking to bring in a veteran wide receiver. I'm not necessarily excited about rookie Jackson Dart throwing to Cooper Kupp in Pittsburgh, or however this plays out. Who knows who the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback is going to be?
Yeah.
But there are a couple of rough landing spots, and there are a couple of really bright ones for some of these veterans.
Yeah.
I think right now, I think I have him a lot closer. I think I'm probably a little bit more higher on Cooper Kupp, where even I feel like he hurt you at the end of last year, but his words tell me that he wants to keep playing, and he's the type of guy that I think can fit easily into an offense as a wide receiver 2 and really flourish. Where I worry about Adams, maybe with the fit, but he's also seemed to be quarterback resilient, where doesn't really matter who's throwing him the ball, he's going to be able to put up numbers.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of stand on Adams, that he just can go wherever and be good. I think Kupp, it's more on the injuries. He's dealt with the more injuries. I think he can still put up good numbers as long as he has a pretty good spot. But the injuries are what the difference between Adams and Kupp. Adams hasn't really gotten hurt and missed as much time. Kupp seems to be missing, chunks every year.
That is true.
Both can play. Both are free agents, so the landing spot's going to be huge. But I think Adams, I would much prefer, just because of staying healthy, and he had some really big pop games last year. So I also want to bring up a couple, switch it over to running back, because there's a couple older ones that, some playing well, but they're old. Throw it out there. Derrick Henry. He's now 31 as a running back. That's, pretty crazy, but he was also a top 3 running back. So, do you just keep riding it, or is this guy Superman, or do you want to sell off and try to get if someone offers you 1.12, a first rounder, what do you think for that, for Henry?
Well, that's the thing. I think according to Keep Trade Cut, it would depend if Quinshon Judkins or Caleb Johnson's on the board, because according to this is right. He's right in the middle of 2 rookies who haven't even been drafted yet. So I think I do like Derrick Henry more than I will say those rookies. I don't think I saw anything last year that makes me think the wheels are falling off, even though he's 31 years old. Luckily, he didn't get hurt. I think that's a guy of his age and his size is simply staying healthy. I have to imagine that they're going to give him a break this offseason. But certainly, if you're rebuilding, you're not buying Derrick Henry. But I think if you're competing, you can absolutely get him on the cheap, and he's a set it and forget it RB next year. So you mentioned the 112. Let's break that down.
Yep.
Let's clear this trade that we had before. So say you just won the championship. I don't know who you would have had as an RB that you would have just lost, but you feel like you're a Derrick Henry piece away from winning the championship. I don't hate this. There's a lot of rookies. I think the thing that we're going to keep coming back to is your rookie picks are only going to increase value as you get closer to the draft. And if you're on the clock at 112, you're going to be able to get more than Derrick Henry for that pick, because the Derrick Henry owner is going to be, nervous, whether it's if he's unsure at all about a player of his age. So you might be able to get, Derrick Henry and the 301, or the
Yeah.
the 305 or something like that. Just get a little extra cheese on that pizza, and
Yep.
I think just waiting a little bit longer. But if you wanted to right now, you wanted to pull the trigger, I don't hate Derrick Henry as a buying asset. For next season, once
Yeah.
again, if you're just really pushing all the chips in to win.
Yeah. So I have a scenario where I did actually win the championship with Derrick Henry, but I was thinking of possibly, rebuilding for some younger backs. I have Montgomery, I have Derrick Henry. So I have like Stevenson. So I was thinking, do I trade Henry, try to get a first, and then, still have enough running backs to get through and then draft one, or do you just ride it out with Derrick Henry? It's close,
It is close. I think with some of these other names on the Dynasty running back landscape, with this really strong running back class, and I brought it up in previous episodes, and I'm going to be saying it for months. I'll be saying it all summer. This is considered one of the strongest rookie running back classes in history. Going back to, I think it's like 2017 with, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette. I think it was 2017. 2011 was a really strong year with Mark Ingram. This will be a class to remember. I've heard as many as 12 running backs being drafted in the first 3 rounds. So you really want to see where the chips fall. That makes you think, there's a lot of talent, but it also makes you think that you could wait and you could get a really, good running back in the early second round, late first. One guy that I have my eye on, though, or one of these two guys, I think Amarian Hampton and TreVeyon Henderson have really solidified themselves as RB2 and RB3 in this rookie draft class. And take your pick. Some people would have Caleb Johnson, once again, the rookie out of Iowa. But I've really heard much more Hampton. And then TreVeyon Henderson is really this kind of gadget back out of Ohio State. They had this 2-headed backfield with TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. But if you look into their profiles, 2 very different prospects. And I think people consider TreVeyon Henderson to have that much higher ceiling, much more that Jahmyr Gibbs prospect as that pass-catching running back. So I think a lot of people are excited about him. So it's really early to see, once again, I can sit here and say, well, wait until the draft falls and, you're on the clock. But that's probably 3 months from now when people are having their rookie draft. So if you can get a first round pick for Derrick Henry, I think we just looked at 112 being that cutoff. So we're really saying any first round pick. If you can get up to the 109 or the 108, and even if you're throwing in your own third, the Derrick Henry, and let's throw this on the board. Let's say you just won with Derrick Henry. There you go. Henry and your end of the third to get up to the 108. Now, once again, this is just an online calculator, but you will have some people in your league that take this for gospel. But yeah, if you just won a championship with Derrick Henry and you're looking to move up and exchange for a rookie running back, this is a deal. This is a deal that I support. That I think you could get a really good, RB2 or RB3 in this class, and then be able to compete right again next year.
Yeah, and that's a deal I would make. Well, if it's about the 8th pick, I probably would do it. And then it's about the 12th pick, I'm like on the fence. I might want to ride it. So it's right in that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I wait and see where the running backs fall. But I 100% agree. Most of these running backs, it's, who lands in the perfect fit, the best offense that's going to be scoring the most. My big running back that I like, I don't want to give it out because I'm in a few leagues with you, but I really like TreVeyon Henderson. Yeah. I've heard not only he's the do-it-all, he's a really good blocker. I keep hearing is going to keep him on the field. So he's known for pass catching, really good blocker, and he's a good running back that's going to get his touches. So I see him as sneaking up. I think he's listed it's the 3rd or 4th running back.
So he's definitely in
Or
the top four rookies with Caleb Johnson once again there with Iowa. You're really hearing Amarian Hampton as the RB2 behind Ashton Genty, I think is,
yeah,
to me, the
yep.
consensus RB2. I'd say a lot of people have Hendricks have, and what you see here on Keep Trade Cut, after Hampton out of North Carolina, you're going to have the pair out of Ohio State and Henderson and Judkins with Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. Those five really solidified
So
themselves in the draft.
this one lists Henderson as the third best, highest.
Keep Trade Cut right now has Hampton as their RB2 and Henderson as their RB3 in a
Yeah,
completely different tier. Um,
yeah.
and I think once again, this is a lot of this will come down to the NFL. To the NFL draft where these teams get slotted. I've heard, man, could you imagine the Kansas City Chiefs taking Travion
Yeah.
Henderson 31st overall? That might be a
Oh,
that might be a 101. You know, you'd have to
uh,
seriously think about
yeah,
depend upon
yeah,
Where Ashton Genty landed. So, um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I could see it for sure. Landing spot, especially for a running back, makes or breaks it. Whether they have to share workload, how much the offense, how many points or how high scoring it is. If there's a second running back there that's gonna take half their touches or something, there's a lot of little things that are gonna pump one up or dump one down to the bottom. So
yeah, there are
we'll
a
see.
couple of, definitely some golden landing spots. The Vikings, the Chargers, places like that. Obviously, no one,
Yep.
I don't think Philadelphia or Baltimore are drafting a running back anytime soon, or at least early in the
I think
draft.
Baltimore could
Um,
if they know, maybe not as high, but if it's a
yeah,
deeper draft, and then
a day
Henry's
four,
got a year left.
yeah, a day four, day five, because who was it? Rasheen Ali didn't do anything, and then Justice Hill
Mitchell, right?
is great, but you're always looking to upgrade. You're always looking for that
Yeah.
next edge. So, um,
Yep.
yeah, no, I agree. Do you have any other names for veteran buy sells? Give me some like an older name that you're unsure about that you might want to break down.
Yeah. All right. I got a couple more running backs.
Hmm.
One on your team, James Conner. That one seems tough because they drafted the running back early that thinks he's going to surpass him, but he really didn't even get close to him. And then they just re-signed Connor again, right?
Yeah.
So, it seems like he's definitely got it another year. Do you just keep riding that? Is he in the same boat? Is he, a late first, early second? And then the other one I was going to say is Kamara.
Yeah.
He was started the year really good. Didn't really play much towards the end of the year as the Saints got knocked out of the playoffs early, but he's also a high potential, but has been dropping, getting older. So, what do you think about those two?
Really interesting names. I love James Conner. I think he is a buy candidate for somebody. Once again, we're looking to turn our team around. We want to compete again next year. Both of these guys are slotted in around that second round pick. It looks like Connor's a little bit cheaper, right around that 2025 mid second. Did just sign that extension. These are really guys that you're really only hoping is going to have 1 or 2 more years at best, but neither of their backups showed much of anything. Trey Benson didn't show much of anything. Kendre Miller didn't show much of anything. Unsure with the new regime in New Orleans. Arizona did not have a change in offensive coordinator. So I do expect Arizona to run this back next year with James Conner being a lot of what he was in 2024, the center back of this offense. They'll probably invest in a wide receiver too, but they have their wide receiver one and their tight end position locked down. They're really not adding too many more offensive weapons. If anything, maybe strengthening the offensive line, which supports James Conner. And the Saints, I don't know what to think about the Saints right now. With Kellen Moore says that he likes Derek Carr. Who knows how much that's true? Who knows what they do in this draft? The Saints are all over the place. So I would probably be looking at. I think I like James Conner a little bit more than Alvin Kamara just because of the security in maybe the team. I think the team, the regime, the offensive strategy, I think they're just going to run it back. You're really going to see the same thing that you saw last year where Kamara I I feel like it's more up in the air. I feel a lot more uncertain about the Saints in general, and maybe they rely on Alvin Kamara as just we're just going to give him the ball. He's that one surefire back, but they're projected to take Ted McMillan as a top 10 wide receiver. They're a team that's weak in weapons and would be adding around Alvin Kamara looking to take touches away. Where I think the additions that Arizona might do might be adding to James Conner in terms of strengthening the offensive line and keeping that same offensive strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it spot on. The Connor is the safer of the two. Both have potential. I think I would potentially buy both if we're at the right price. But Connor, I think the higher ceiling. They're looking to win now, and they re-signed him. That offense should be scoring more points. I really see him as a potential buy. Kamara, I think it's more. I would need the right price, and you're almost looking for a buyout out of the Saints. I think they could. I heard they're looking to buy out Taysom Hill, and just really structure that team. So if Kamara could leave and go to a contending team, that's something that really interests me for, a high potential. So I would be buying both, but Connor for sure safer, and might be able to get him for a cheaper price because they have Benson. That person may think this is the year they, switch and give Benson the lead. So you might be able to get Connor for like a mid-second or something, which I would pounce all over.
Well, you just brought up a good point in Benson because I wanted to see James Conner and Trey Benson are practically back to back. RB28 James Conner, RB30 and Trey Benson. I don't like that. I really think Conner solidified himself. Even if you see a 70-30, transition, Conner's the guy. So Alvin Kamara, I mean, who's his backups? Still Kendre Miller, and
Yeah.
I don't see him anywhere on this list. Do they have another backup? So I think that's the thing about, Kendrick Miller all the way down here at RB56.
Yep.
How the Saints don't have anybody else, and you could get somebody who thinks, the Cardinals are in that transition period, because I think that's what everybody expected them to do this last season. Benson was a high drafted rookie. He's that fresh name. I think maybe people have forgotten about Kendrick Miller because of what Dennis Allen did to him. No, so yeah. I think we're on the same page about that. It's crazy to see all these running backs here with the negative rankings. It's absolutely I guess a buyer's market if everybody's selling and all their stock is tanking. So if you want to invest in somebody, I like the idea of investing in James Conner. Yeah.
And the running back position right now is just so up and down, between injuries that happen, rookies come in and take the spots. I don't really like to invest a lot of money or a lot of assets in my running backs. Mm-hmm. I like to, buy a cheap running back that I know, like a Connor, get him for a second, and that I, have him ride me out. So, I think if you can get him cheap for the right price, it could be worth it. But another guy I was just thinking in that same category had a better year than both of these guys, but getting towards that age, Joe Mixon. What do you think? I think he's now 28?
28.6. And as a guy who spent a valuable pick to buy Joe Mixon but won a championship, I'm a little nervous about going into this next season. And I think that nervousness comes with the Houston Texans possibly drafting a strong rookie running back because that draft class is so strong. I think the thing about Joe Mixon is he doesn't have a lot of competition. Dameon Pierce, I don't think, is the guy. I mean, Daria Gumbawale isn't the guy. So Mixon seems to be a guy who starts off hot and finishes slow. That seems to be his thing. For many years. Joe Mixon is not a guy that I think I'm buying, and I think he's a hold. I think he's a hold in hope that the team doesn't draft a replacement. I think the Texans kind of, a lot of their weaknesses showed, and they do have a lot of holes. So I don't know if running back or RB2 is a strong position of need. So if they end up drafting a day three running back, I don't think it would scare me. Um, so I don't think I'm necessarily buying Joe Mixon, but I also don't think I'm selling because of the way that he just crashed and burned at the end of last year. I certainly don't think anybody else is buying.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right that he did slow up towards the end of the year. He started really hot, and then a lot of people might have that sour taste. He trended down the last few weeks in the playoffs. It's still going to be a good offense. I think he's still going to be definitely that workhorse back, even if they draft someone. I think he's still a buy in that same category as Connor, where, I would easily trade a mid-second for him. I'm not trading a first for him, but as long as he's a mid-second or in that range, I would be buying Joe.
But I think that's the value that we're seeing here. He's ranked right next to a 2025 early third.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking at, between the early and the mid, so 204, 203. But a lot of it comes down to team fit and team scenario. If you feel like you're a running back away, I don't know if Joe Mixon would really be the guy that I'd be buying. I think if somebody came to me and they wanted to sell, so if the deal was right,
Yeah.
a late second, and someone's literally trying to force him onto my roster, yeah, maybe.
That's
Yeah.
these kind of guys. I'm more thinking to get them for a little bit of a discount.
I think
get them
that's
for
the
that
thing, yeah.
second. I'm not buying him for what he is worth probably on this.
That's the thing. You're not paying market price.
Right. If you want to sell him because he did have a down end of the year and they might draft one and you're a little scared and you want to sell him for a mid-second, I think you jump on that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think we're on the same page here.
I agree.
Let's see if I have any other ones.
Yeah. Do you got one, maybe two more names, old veterans that we want to break down as maybe some buy sells going into the season?
Oh, okay. All right. I got two more running backs.
Okay.
I got David Montgomery.
Okay.
And then Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones is interesting, and we can maybe start there because he's about to become a free agent. He's going to be the hot free agent signing of the summer. So, is a team going to invest? Let me see if I can find him first. Is a team going to invest? Did I skip him? No. In a veteran. These are some ugly names on ahead of him. But is a team going to invest in a veteran? Oh my goodness. Before they sign or before the rookie draft. So are they going? We all know the veteran free agency period is before the rookie draft. Aaron Jones is the hot running back free agent of the summer. So what team is going to invest money in him knowing that there's such a strong running back draft class behind him? I would rather have David Montgomery. I mean, the ratings agree with you. The fact that I couldn't even find Aaron Jones on this list is tough. So what are your thoughts on Aaron Jones? I mean, are you selling him for an early third, or
is that what he's listed?
He's before that, but let's even put some players next to him. I mean, would you want Aaron Jones, Rashad White, or Rico Dowdle? Which of those three?
I would go with the younger backs, with Rashad White. I'm not sure about Rico Dowdle. Jones, it's tough without knowing his team. I don't see him being a lead back or a workhorse back anymore. He's proven to be injured way too many times. So I think at best he's in a 50-50 time share. White is also in that. He's more of a receiving back now with Bucky. But in a PPR league, I think I would still take White and the younger pick. Jones for a early third, I would consider that for sure. Like if I had the depth to give up a running back, I didn't need a running back. I hope I'm not having to start Aaron Jones. So I would probably take the early third. If you get a late second, jump on it. I think that's where I'm at. Montgomery, I have stronger feelings for. I think in that offense, as that, bulldozing back, he's always going to have 10 plus touchdowns. He's going to get his 800 to 1,000 yards. I just think he's a safe pick. And if Gibbs ever got hurt, he's an RB1. So I think his potential and in that offense is 100% where his value comes. If he goes to another team, I don't value him even close to the same. But as that role, I would probably say he's more early second. What I would need to get maybe even a first. I don't know what they rank Montgomery at, but probably I would guess early second is what he's ranked.
That's funny because he's right here next to the 2025 early second on Keep Trade Cut.
Bingo.
So that's
okay.
Let me put a couple of names on you though, because David Montgomery is right here between a couple of veterans and a couple of rookies. So let's start with the rookies, and you can answer this question however you want. Once again, if you're in the matter of competing or you're rebuilding, between David Montgomery, Chuba Hubbard, and Tyrone Tracy, which one are you taking? Because to me, this is an obvious David Montgomery as a steady back. Chuba Hubbard being the lead is great, but we know about Jonathan Brooks. Maybe the year after, who knows how that's going to play out. But which of those three do you like?
For me, I think I got to go with Hubbard. As risky as it is, I wouldn't say if you desperately need a running back that maybe not your call, because obviously Jonathan Brooks is in the coming in the future, but he's just signed a 4-year deal. I think Chuba's going to be a big lead back this year. He's going to have another top 10 year. And then after that, I think it's still going to be 50-50, maybe even 70-30 favoring Chuba. So I would lead Chuba there. Montgomery versus Tracy, I think I would go Montgomery. I think he's safer. I think Tracy showed promise, but being on the Giants, they could draft someone. I don't trust that. I think Mixon versus Montgomery is very close. I think Mixon has the higher potential, being the lead back. That offense could be very good, but it was a little bit down last year. That's close. I think I would lean Montgomery over Mixon, though, like they have. Brian Robinson, I would definitely go Montgomery over him. All the ones below, I would go Montgomery.
Do you have any concerns? And I think a lot of this can be blown out of proportion, but Ben Johnson leaving, maybe a new coach or a new offensive coordinator wants to come in and make Jahmyr Gibbs the guy. I don't have a lot of concerns. I feel like David Montgomery is still fairly young. I mean, he's not even 28 years old. He's really shown that he can hold his own. He could very much be the RB1 if he was on a different team in the right situation. So do you have any concerns going into next year that his role might regress? I think that's where a lot of people are maybe investing in Jahmyr Gibbs, is really being the RB1 overall and the RB1 in Dynasty.
Yeah, it's definitely there, but I just think because they're going to be winning so many games, they're going to be running the ball a lot. So those both running backs are going to still have a lot of value. And I think giving Gibbs too big of a workload is going to get him hurt. And I think they know that. They don't want to do that. So even when they get up, they want to go with Gibbs to take those, carries and hold Gibbs to a more pristine role. Use him when they need to. I don't think it's ever going to be like a 75-25 split. It's going to be more in that 50-50, 60-40, which is fine because Montgomery gets the goal line always. And, as long as you get one touchdown a game, that's a good fantasy day. So
I think that's the thing. And let's actually go there really quickly, because I would love to see Montgomery's stat line this last year, and how much was David Montgomery touchdown dependent, because it just seemed like he got a touchdown every game. He averaged 12 touchdowns in 14 games. So practically every game that he started, he got a touchdown. If you take away his touchdown total, David Montgomery got the fewest yards of his career.
Yep.
at 775.
Yep.
Now he got. I mean, I'm really happy with 36 catches and over 300 yards. Those PPR numbers will help, but I'm nervous about the touchdown regression. I think the one thing that he has going for him is being 230 pounds, where Jahmyr Gibbs is 202. So I think as long as
Exactly.
these two guys are on the same team, you're going to continue to see David Montgomery get the goal line touches, like you said. Um,
Yep.
and you just got to hope that that almost continues to carry him along, because although he might be touchdown dependent, I think he's almost the highest. I would almost say he's more. I'm more confident he's going to get a touchdown than Jahmyr Gibbs, simply because of that reason. Where Gibbs is going to put up the higher, more total receptions, maybe more total yards. But I would say on that any touchdown prop, I like David Montgomery every single week.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been like this for years. That's why I don't think there's much regression, because he's done this. Jamal Williams was there before, even when they had Jamal Williams and Swift. They give it to those bigger backs to get in the end zone. So I think, that TD is just a safety net, and you're always going to get, that one TD, and, whatever you get, the receptions, the yards, it's just a bonus, So he's going to be in that 10 plus. Obviously, Gibbs has that high potential. He can, run one in from 70 yards out. So he's always going to be the play over Montgomery. But I think in that offense, there's enough for two to support two running back. One's probably a top 5 running back, and I put Montgomery in that RB15 to RB20, but it's a nice, safe RB. And he's still 27, so I think he's got, a couple years left. As long as he sticks in this offense, you got a nice, safe RB2.
I think that's the thing, is your expectations. So David Montgomery does come in here at RB21. If your expectations are an RB2, and I'm really happy with an RB2, I'm really happy with I'm probably going to get 10 points, 10 to 15 points each week, then you're going to be satisfied. But I think if you have to start him as your RB1 and you're hoping for that touchdown every week, or hey, I need him to take me over the edge, is when he might break your heart.
Yeah.
No, so I think he's slotted perfectly where he is, but I do think, just as we've talked about some of these guys, there are value in some of these older players you've brought up. I'm going to transition here over to our next topic, but you really brought up a lot of really good older players. Some guys that are some really good buy-sell names. We talked about a good number of running backs here. Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, James Conner. We touched on all these guys. We touched on some wide receivers. We talked about, we went ahead and broke down Cooper Kupp's not even on this page because he's so far down the rankings, but we went ahead and broke down, Mike Evans versus Tyreek Hill. I think I'm probably leaning a little bit more Mike Evans because of that confidence, but I really liked a lot of the names that you brought up here. There are some hidden values in a lot of these picks. So let's go ahead and transition, though. We've just gotten done talking about some really old guys. Let's transition into some younger guys. Let's transition into some, rookie mock drafts. This was another topic that you brought up before we got on today, something that interests you. Looking back at mock drafts of previous years, and not even mock drafts, so we can talk about mock drafts, and I can even jump right into that in terms of, so fantasypros.com has rookie average draft positions going back to 2021, so you can see for our rookie drafts, most of these were happening after the NFL draft. Where were these players slotted in, and we're gonna break down right now kind of how did that end up? Did they end up, were these some good choices? Was taking Michael Carter as your RB3, 9th overall, a good choice? Probably not. But if I look at the players around him, there really wasn't a lot around him. We're looking at Terrace Marshall and Elijah Moore. So overall, this looks like a pretty top-heavy draft class, but let's go ahead and take a step back. Yeah, what's on your mind?
I just do you have it in order of average? Because doesn't it say Javonte Williams was 5, and it's like towards the bottom?
I think yes. Well, so this is a. Where do you hear? Yeah. So I don't know why. I don't know why that
Yeah,
was
filter
slotted
on
that way.
average.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Okay. So yeah, Javonte Williams was. Oh, it looked like it was rank. I don't know where. I don't know how Fantasy Pros has their rank different than average. Maybe this is their own rank versus the mock draft or the draft ADP. I think that's what it is. So
Okay.
sounds like they weren't very high on Javonte, but a lot of the rookie draft consensus was.
And this is a 1 QB league for
I
the
believe so.
rankings.
This I believe for
Yeah.
one QB league. I also have some sleeper picks. So let's go ahead and start it just like at last year. I'll zoom
Yeah.
in here to give the people what they want. So I just went ahead and took some screenshots off the internet
Yep.
to find some drafts that took place, and we'll be able to sit here and kind of break down once again where some of these players fell compared to how they actually performed. But Kyle, go ahead and tell me what's on your mind. What are you thinking with some of these rookies? And we can go anywhere back from the last 3 years. If you want to tell me a year and tell me what's on your mind.
Yeah. So I mean, now that the rookies drafts are coming, you kind of want to get in position to accumulate as many picks as possible. But you want to look at the draft and see, where are most of the good hits coming from? Are any of them coming in? Are there any third round picks that, are a hit that you know about? I know 2 years ago there was a couple with Puka and Tank Dell. This last year, I don't
Let me
see.
look here. Yeah, a couple years back.
Which year is this?
Well, actually, you just brought up. Let's start at 2024.
Yeah. So 2024, last year.
Jalen
In the
McMillan going in
third
the end of the
round.
fourth, and
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy. A couple of names.
Yeah. I love McMillan. Tracy's a great hit.
Everybody was really high on. I think the names that hit weren't names that people were expecting. I mean, I remember last year, Tez Walker, Luke McCaffrey, Brendan Rice. Everybody, oh my gosh, the son of Jerry Rice.
Yep.
To the Chargers. That's a sleeper pick.
Right.
Even Roman Wilson was the senior. What's it called? Not senior weekend. You know what I mean. Why is that blanking on me?
Senior Bowl thing?
Yeah, the Senior Bowl kind of darling and really flashed. And they always talk about, Cooper Kupp flashed and, always trying to go back and this year there were a couple of guys that flashed, but there were a couple of pretty big misses. Yeah, last year as well.
Yeah. I mean, this one, I'm seeing Malik Washington poke in the mid twos, and those are big misses so far. Leggett is basically a miss so far. Corum barely played. Lloyd barely played. McCarthy got hurt. Most of the second round wasn't. Brooks got hurt. Pearsall mostly hurt. Coleman kind of underachieved. Benson barely played. I mean, most of the second round, didn't hit last year or after. Couple hits in the fourth round. That's it. But you really want to get those first round picks. I think that's where, it just shows almost every first round pick is a hit. I mean, Troy Franklin over McConkey? No way.
I'd be curious. This has got to be. Oh no, it's to Denver. So this is a post NFL
Jermaine
draft.
Burton over
I'm laughing.
McConkey?
Yeah, I would laugh at whoever this was. But anyways, so I believe the numbers are. It's like 50% of first round picks are a hit. 20% of second round picks are a hit, and then it falls to 10% or less for the third round and after. And you're gonna find those gems. I mean, everybody's gonna sit here and I'm gonna look at Bucky Irving in the fourth round and Jalen McMillan in the fourth round, but I'm gonna show you 12 to 20 names before then that are misses that you would have taken before him, before those guys when you were on the clock. So don't sit here and think that you know that you're doing, that you're smarter than everybody. Try and get those first round picks. Try and move up in the draft when you can. So this is just 2024. Let's go ahead and take and look at. So I can zoom in here a little bit. So this is going to be 2022. Let's look at 2023. Whoa.
Okay.
So once again, let's ignore the fact that somebody took Quentin Johnson second overall. This looks like a pre-NFL draft because everybody has free agency next to them. So I think this is a pretty big indicator. But we're still looking at talent as a whole, and certainly the NFL draft has a lot to kind of help it fall in. But man, once again, we're looking at Puka, Sam Laporta here in the 4th and 5th. Even Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, although same teams, hard to go there. Tank Dell was still known as Nathaniel Dell.
Almost
didn't even get his
5th
name
round.
yet. Rashi Rice.
Jaden Reed. There's a lot of big hits in this draft. So, I mean, there's hits late. I would try to accumulate as many thirds as you can. A lot of people think of them as, whatever, I'm not going to hit their dart throw. But if you get a couple of them and you do hit, you just got to hit on one. Get 3 cheap ones, and you never know if one hits. So
I think when it comes to 3rd-round picks is you don't want too many, but it also depends on league structure. If your league has a lot of taxi spots, if your team is really weak and come draft time, you got 5 or 6, bottom feeders on your bench that you can easily kick off into free agency and you're looking to replace. I know I have a roster in one of my Dynasty leagues that is top to bottom stacked. I'm actually looking to sell almost first-round picks, 2 first rounds for an early first because I have so few spots to cut. So if you do have the extra roster spots, I like thirds. A lot of people, as you said, will just give away thirds or give away force. If you're trying to make a trade and you're unsure, have the guy throw in a third, have the guy throw in a couple of thirds, because at the end of the day, if someone's trying to buy a veteran, a 3rd-round pick's not going to stop them. If it's like, to go back to some of our examples earlier of, say you're selling a Derrick Henry and you tell that guy, hey, just throw in a 3rd-round pick and I'll accept it. Just because you're putting it right there, guys will do that, and guys will kind of throw these picks away to get the players that they want. And although I just mentioned a 3rd-round pick is maybe a 10% hit, you got 3 or 4 first-round picks, that becomes a 30 or 40% hit rate on a stud, on someone that's going to be in your team, as we've broken down here. So let's look at one more draft class here. 2022. Sorry, guys, I'm just adjusting my screenshots. I want the audience to be able to see what we're looking at here. So we're looking at a 2022 rookie draft class. It looks like teams are listed, so this would be post NFL draft. A lot of different players here, man. David Bell, the 202. Stands out to
Treylon
me.
Burks at 103.
This was a class that these 3 right here murdered a lot of people. That Dotson, Moore, Watson. If you missed on one of these top 6 or 7 studs, I'm sure Treylon Burks hurt a lot of people as well.
A lot of misses in this one.
I think it is the collective. You'll have just as many first-round hits as you will hits between rounds 3, 4, and 5. So you probably got 5 or 6 hits in the first round. And then if we look at rounds 3, 4, 5, you could say, I wouldn't quite call Dobbs a hit, but, Kyron Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, Isaiah Likely in the 5th, even Khalil Shakir. Yeah, you got a couple of guys here that have been fantasy relevant, but still, it's that, how lucky are you going to get? Because you could just as easily take Dameon Pierce at the 204, and be hitting yourself a year or 2 later. I remember Tyquan Thornton, man. I remember that was the guy I was really high on. Is this speedster? Are the Patriots finally gonna get it right at wide receiver? And of course they didn't. But I think
Yeah.
as like a late, I think everybody falls in love with some of those late third or fourth round picks, guys that,
Yep.
this is my guy. I know more than everybody else, and I know that he's gonna hit. Maybe we can
Especially
actually,
when they,
or yeah, go there.
I was just gonna say when they land in an opportunity where there's no alpha wide receiver one, you want one of those guys where you're like, I'm predicting this guy's the guy that's gonna break out. And no really Patriot receiver did that. I don't think they had a good enough QB in the last few years to, break out a receiver. I think now with Drake May, someone's gonna break out soon. It's either gonna be one of these young guys or they're gonna draft someone, bring someone in. But I think a lot of it is Thornton was just tested off the uh, metrics of like talent, skill, but that offense wasn't supportive enough for a receiver. So it's tough. You always want to grab that wide receiver, third round receiver, and land that, but I'm trailing off. I lost my thought.
No, it's okay. I think the big thing is the Patriots just can't draft wide receivers, and I don't care who the GM is. I don't
Yeah,
care. What it is.
they missed on
They
like
need
three
they
last
need to
year.
go out and give T Higgins $30 million to
Yeah,
come in and kind of reshape that offense and give Drake May a security blanket. I don't think you want to bring in draft Ted McMillan fourth overall. It's a weak
yeah,
rookie wide receiver class. So go out and find your quarterback, a veteran, find somebody. Even if you bring in a DeAndre Hopkins, the Patriots aren't winning any Super Bowls in 2025. But get your guy somebody that in 2.5 seconds he can throw the ball out for an out route, get a first down, get his confidence up. So
yeah.
no, that organization as a whole with so much cap money this offseason, I'm excited to see what they do, that's for sure.
Yeah, they've been in the market, and their team keeps being in the rumor mill. I think it's only inevitable where someone big does sign with them. They got Drake May. They just need to pair him with someone. So
Yeah.
whoever that is probably going to be a big a buy, I'd say. You want to get that receiver paired with an elite young quarterback. I think May's proven that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talked about this on an earlier episode about the free agent wide receiver market. Chris Godwin's going to be looking for a new home. Amari Cooper. I really like Darius Slayton to the New England
Yeah,
Patriots as a security blanket. So
yeah,
a lot of
a lot
interesting
of options.
names, and I think the Patriots should really attack the wide receiver in free agency. So.
They're due to, yeah.
Well, all right, man. I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and transition here to the second half of our show. Really appreciate you bringing forward these topics, man. Bringing forward what's on your mind. A lot of
Yeah,
really interesting things, a lot of really good things to talk about. So it was really exciting to sit there and break down the veterans and some of these
love
rookie
that.
drafts from last year and talking about the value of those picks, but also not being shy about some of those third, fourth, or even fifth round picks, collecting ammo. When you have a lot of space, when you have a lot of bottom feeder guys in your roster that you're going to drop anyways, go ahead and ask for that extra third to be thrown into that trade. Who knows what it's going to end up being?
Yep.
More ammunition, more shots. Okay, so yeah, just really going to go ahead and transition here. One of the things I like to do when I transition is just to throw a little meme in there, get everybody's spirits up. Let's have a little bit of laugh. This came across my feed a while back when Carson Beck, the Georgia quarterback, was thinking of declaring for the NFL draft, or I think had declared for the NFL draft, and they did a little quarterback comps. And I think when Carson Beck saw this, he went, maybe I should go back to college for another year. When his ceiling is compared to Daniel Jones and his floor is Will Levis, so
Yeah,
not what you want to see.
that's never good. When your ceiling is a guy that is bottoming out, and everyone thinks he's terrible. Maybe it's time to call it a career, and he's doing that. He's
Hmm.
he's doing it at Miami, making as much money as he can. So good for him.
Absolutely. Um, So I am going to take a second here. I like to take a step back and because I'm the Dynasty Doctor, talk about advice section. I don't really have a good page to go up here, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw my Twitter page back up. Go ahead and once again promote myself. This is a fairly new channel. I am a new page trying to get people to follow along with my journey, and as I have different guests on and break down their fancy questions. But I do like to do a small advice section. What I'm going to do and what I'm going to talk about now is how to avoid tanking. I am a commissioner in a fair number of leagues, and my rules have changed over time. And one of the ones that has come up a lot is how do you avoid tanking? How do you, get people to set their rosters? And what do you do when people don't set their rosters? And I feel like I have a pretty good handle on how to handle it. First thing that I introduce in all my Dynasty leagues is a draft lottery. You never really just want to award the lowest record team with the number one overall pick because once again, if they don't set their roster and they lose on purpose, you don't want to reward that team. So there's a couple things that you can do, but the main thing is you set a lottery where is a percentage of the lowest placed teams, say teams 12, 11, and 10 have an even number of lottery balls to win the first overall pick, and you can expand that to the bottom 6 teams that miss the playoffs to however you want to spread those lottery chances out. I'll often do it for a super flex league. The lottery is for the first 2 picks, both the 101 and the 102. So if the last place team loses the lottery, the worst draft pick that they have is the 103. We've implemented this in a 1 QB league where you only do it for the 101. So last year, the last place team lost out on the 101. They missed out on Marvin Harrison Jr. Oh no, they took Malik Neighbors. The guy actually wasn't too upset about that. So along with draft lottery based upon record, you can also do draft lottery based upon max points for. This is something that's very specific to Sleeper, and you can look at the overall settings. What is the highest potential that the team had for scoring points for? So once again, if they failed to set their roster appropriately, if they decided to bench their best players, they don't get that advantage by tanking and losing in the draft lottery because you're basing the draft lottery off of that max points for. Go ahead and look that up if you don't know how that is. It is something that is available in Sleeper. The last thing that I'll say is that I also implement a 3 strike ruling for tanking. First strike is always just a warning. A lot of it comes into play. You get those London games, some guy doesn't check their roster at 6 a.m. because Jonathan Brooks is declared out, or you get the guy that pulled his hamstring in warm-ups. That happens. So you give everybody a courtesy. You give them 1 strike for in the season. Hey, pay attention. Get your stuff together. Especially Sleeper now has that feature to auto set your lineup, or if a player is questionable, an auto sub. So if you're a commissioner, definitely turn on that auto sub feature. Second strike is losing a 3rd round pick. We had started with losing a 1st round pick, but once you start taking 1st round picks away, you might as well just kick the guy out of the league and find a new owner. No one who is tanking and gets a 1st round pick taken away actually wants to stay around anyways. And then the 3rd strike, if this comes to this, maybe someone's having a bad year. You don't want to kick them out of the league, but you want to, punish them for continuously not setting their lineup. What we have adopted is a 3rd strike usually would be kicked out of the league, but once again, say you have a buddy that you want to keep around. A 3rd strike would be they're no longer eligible for the draft lottery. So all of that tanking goes away. None of it means anything. They will then just simply be slotted into whatever their pick would be after the lottery takes place. So once again, if the lottery is only for the 101 and the 102, that team is only eligible for the 103 or later, depending upon where the rest of the team slot in. So that's how we end up doing, or that is what has been the most successful for me for handling tanking from a commissioner standpoint, for once again doing a draft lottery where you reward the 101 or possibly the 102 based upon a percentage of lottery balls. You hold this after the championship weekend. How do you rank the draft lottery? Is it by record or by max points for? That's a thing unique to Sleeper. Go ahead and look into max points for. That's gotten a lot of popularity. And then the last thing is a 3 strike system. but we've been able to kind of adopt it to be a little bit more friendly. A lot of people out there have dynasty leagues with their friends. You don't want to kick people out, but I have a good friend where I took a third round pick away. I'm like, hey man, you weren't setting your lineup. We're gonna punish you by taking a third round pick. He was accepting of it, where he said, look, I understand, I'll be better, but he's not all, immediately up in arms. This is ridiculous. Wants to leave. Now I need to find a new owner. Losing a third round pick is a lot more manageable than getting a first round pick taken away. So that is my little advice section on, as a commissioner, how to handle tanking in your leagues. It is a very tough thing to handle, to manage, but I think there are avenues to mitigate it, to hopefully reduce it. I know I just went on a bit of a ramble there, Kyle, but do you have any opinions or any thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah. No, I agree. You need to have something implemented, or half the teams in the league will start fighting to lose on purpose, and that ruins the league. Almost every matchup, there's someone tanking, and it gets crazy at the end of the year. So if you can implement something along those lines, taking away picks is tough. I kind of like. It's a good idea. I think it's solid, but
that's the thing. It's tough. Yeah.
You need to do something. I think taking away fab money, or actually docking them some money. $5 every time you do it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some kind of punishment. I agree. It depends on the group. It depends how serious the guys are, but something along those lines. And the lottery is always huge. Because then it's not as much of a fight to lose every game. You just want to, kind of set your lineup, be towards the bottom, and it's whatever. If the lottery happens in your favor, we'll see.
And I think that's the big thing. A lot of this comes down to how friendly are you with the rest of your league? Are you in a league with 11 strangers, or is it 11 of your friends from school, from college that you're all really tight with? I think the draft lottery is the number one most important thing, and most of the time you do, the bottom 3 picks all have the same odds. So 10, 11, 12, it doesn't matter. There's really no advantage. Now there is once again, a slight advantage where if you finish 12th and you lose the lottery, now you're still that 103. But when it comes to the odds of winning the lottery, I think you can convince a lot of your league mates to try and set that roster, try and be competitive, and still calling out your friends when they decide to, sit Josh Allen for Mac Jones or something like that.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of making the loser bracket? Whoever wins it's in that order. My basketball team does that. And it's just different. It's the only league I have like that. But whoever makes the losing bracket does not make the playoffs. It's now in order of how you finish. So you want to have the best team possible towards the end. If you lose in the first round, you're going to have like the 7th pick or something, So it makes it interesting.
That's tough, because I feel like if I just missed the playoffs, I would be rewarded. I would then be being rewarded, where I could fight my way towards the 101. So it really doesn't help the worst teams. I would rather see it where you almost just have 2 teams battle it out, where I would have 12 and 11, and the winner gets the 101. Or 9 and 10, and the winner gets the 103, where you're still competing for the better pick, but it's not so much of like, a guy just misses with the 107. We're in a league together where you and I were looking at this guy who had the schedule of all schedules, had so many points scored, but he missed the playoffs. I would hate to go up against that guy, because he would basically get a free 101 if you had this loser bracket. So I like the idea of some kind of loser competition to justify it. I wouldn't have it play all the way out, but I do like a friendly competition if it was, 12 and 11th played for the winner gets the 101 or something like that. Even if it was, a 2-week, you could do a 2-week playoff bracket, make it something offline. The commissioner easily keeps track of the score.
Yeah, maybe the bottom 4 teams play. So at worst, you're getting the 4th pick. So similar to the lottery, but at that same time, you're not tanking your team to get it, looking terrible. You're actually trying to keep your team, somewhat of a winning team. All teams will have to keep a relatively solid roster to that's the benefit of doing that versus the lottery.
Yeah.
That everyone is going to try to keep winning the whole time, the whole year.
I agree, and I think that's the thing with Dynasty is you want people to stay competitive. People are going to continue to, be active in waivers and continue to set those rosters. But it is tough when you're already declared out of the playoffs, and that's where the max points for comes into play. So there are a lot of different ways to do this. And I think the biggest thing, and I'll put a bow on this topic, is discuss it with your league mates. There are a lot of options out there, but just discuss it with your league mates, whether it be a loser's tournament or a draft lottery or a combination of everything. There are ways to mitigate tanking if it is a concern in your league.
Yeah, perfect.
So, all right, man, I want to go ahead and hit on the last topic of the day, and this is really going to be kind of this, the second half. I'll kind of ramble here in a little bit, and then I want to get over into Keep Trade Cut because we are, I think we're coming up on over an hour if we haven't already. We're doing pretty good today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about tight ends, tight end rankings, Dynasty tight end rankings. So. First off, what I have here are rookie tight ends, and I have some down here that are slightly cut off, but I'm really going to focus on the top 15 here. There's a little bit of a difference in ESPN ranking versus PFF ranking, and I'm going to touch on Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green here in a second. But we really have a top, I'd say, 6 consensus. ESPN has a solid top 5 that I would say PFF matches, and then another 4 which are very commonly brought up. I heard a lot of Jake Brinning. I might be not saying this right. Brinning Stool from Clemson had a really good Senior Bowl, so I really like him moving forward. But I really just want to focus on these top 6 guys here. Kind of going to break these guys down, and then I'm just going to really transition over into the PFF breakdown. But I want to give our audience a good breakdown of these tight ends. So the 2 top tight ends, and Tyler Warren out of Penn State and Colston Loveland out of Michigan, have really separated themselves, looking like 2 first-round tight ends. Basically set it and forget it. These guys are going to be drafted in the tight end unless something crazy happens. I'm hearing both of them are most likely to be drafted before the Chargers at pick like 21 or 22. If you all remember, Jim Harbaugh, the current coach of the Chargers, coached at Michigan, coached Colston Loveland. So these are 2 guys expect to go high, and we'll get here in a second on Keep Trade Cut. Both are already ranked in the top 10 Dynasty tight end rankings. Very surprising for 2 guys that haven't taken a snap in the NFL. Yep. Number 3 on the ESPN ranking, and number 5, when it comes to the PFF big board overall, is Elijah Arroyo out of Miami. Had a really good showing at the Senior Bowl. You really saw his draft stock elevate from the Senior Bowl. Mason Taylor and Gunnar Helm, 2 guys out of 2 big schools that I think just had impressive seasons. Mason Taylor, the son of Hall of Famer Sean Taylor. So that is a name to keep out, just an athletic freak. The NFL runs through this guy's veins. A lot of really big boys here. We're looking at 6'4", 245 plus. But the last guy that I'm going to talk here for a second, Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. He is not ranked on ESPN and Mel Kiper's top 10 big board. Comes in at 6'4", 230. But if we look at PFF ranked the top 10 tight ends, the PFF receiving grade for this season, and Harold Fannin Jr. lit up the competition this year, broke tight end records, I believe, for the FBS. If you look at his stats and some of his tape, athletic freak. Now, I believe he a little bit undersized, being at 230, was able to, probably was lined up against the linebackers, had a bit of separation, but I'm really excited to see Harold Fannin Jr. as he plays out. Once again, a guy that if you just simply look at 1 year of tape, blew everybody away. Far and away the top the top tight end of the season. I would have considered him tight end 3, but I don't think a lot of people are giving him the credit he deserves. Some of it could be that he came in undersized at the Senior Bowl. Who knows? But absolutely a name to keep an eye on. I think these top 6 names have really solidified themselves as top 6 names. Once again, if you see here on my list, have a strong class. This kid out of Oregon, this kid at a Notre Dame. We saw these guys flourish in the college football playoffs. But I think these top 6 are pretty solidified right now. So just going to kind of leave it at that. I would love to transition over here to now some veterans with some of these top 2 rookies included. I mentioned that both Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland, a lot of people consider them top 10 rookie tight ends in terms of dynasty. PFF also went ahead and put together their own tier list. Once again, this is PFF's tiers of different tight ends. You see here they have two rookies of their own in the top 12. And then I went ahead and listed the Dynasty Nerds. This is another Dynasty podcast. Go ahead and give them a listen. They're great. They recently had a Dynasty tight end episode and talked about some of their buy and sells. They listed about 3 buys and 3 sells. So we'll get into those as well when we break these tiers down. But really just going to kind of flash through these tiers, see if any stand out to you. We got about a top 18 or top 20. So I'll break down these top few tiers, or we can even do this together. Do you have any argument with the top 3 tight ends? Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, George Kittle. I know George Kittle's a little old, but I think the way that he flashed in San Francisco, I think he's solidified himself. I probably would have put Sam Laporta up there. I think a lot of people are, feel like he took a step back. But I would probably have Bowers and McBride in a tier of their own.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think Bowers and McBride are clear 1-2, and they're the youngest. Mm-hmm. They're just above and beyond everyone. I don't think it's even close. So I would put Kittle in that next tier. The problem with Kittle, his talent's there, but they just phase him out of the offense sometimes, and they just don't use him. And he just gets a donut randomly. So, I don't think McBride or Bowers have that. And they're younger. So Kittle's very good, but he's more in that Laporta, Hawkinson, Jonnu tier. And that tier is tough. I think Laporta could be the best out of all of them. I think he was hurt going into last year and then struggled a little bit. Didn't have his best year last year, but he's, that was his year 2, and he had a great year 1. So why can't he have a great year 3? Hawkinson was hurt as well, missed half the year and flashed. He looked just like his old self. I think he deserves to be there. Jonnu kind of came out of nowhere. He wasn't even close to a tier 2 tight end in the last few years. Probably was in free agency, even in a dynasty league last year. That's how deep. So to be up that high, I'm a little shocked. And he's still a buy. So, I like Jonnu. I have him in 3 of my teams. I just am a little shocked. But that's kind of how the tight end landscape is. There's a lot of older tight ends that are kind of, Kelsey's fallen off the map. He was always in that top tier. Andrews kind of fell off, and then he had a lot of touchdowns to keep him back relevant. But, it seems to be everyone's kind of drifting off those older tight ends and looking to get one of these top tight ends. So I get why Loveland and Warren are, slotted so high. I think they can pass, even Njoku, Andrews, Kelsey. I would – if someone said, I'll give you Warren or Loveland for Kelsey, I would do that in a second.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even think about that. So I'm shocked Kelsey's higher than some of these guys.
Well,
I don't.
Yeah, that's I think what shocked me too is I was looking at this and I saw Jonnu Smith as a buy and their 6th overall tight end in tier 2. I mean, I understand he had a great season, and I kind of went, wait a minute, let me look back. And this is once again, I am the Dynasty Doctor. I have a PhD, and I like to look at data. you like to compare different websites. You like to see where different people have these rankings and form their own opinions. I think most people would agree in those top two. But once again, when I saw Jonnu Smith sixth as a buy, I think this is their own tier in their potential. Because once again, if we look at Jonnu Smith sixth, Travis Kelce seventh, if we take a step back here, and I go over to keep trade cut, it took me a second to find Jonnu Smith at tight end 16 and Travis Kelce at tight end 23. So these are not guys that are ranked in the top 10 dynasty. I would like to think, and I think the optimism that we have over here at PFF is PFF's not a dynasty website. They are looking at probably 1 year potential. I think they saw Jonnu Smith as being, we could talk about Jonnu Smith as, Tyreek Hill might be moving on, really got a lot of the short passes in the offense. So why don't we look at it that way, I think, as knowing that as, but even then, I mean, are you, I guess, after the top 5 tight ends, and I might even say after the top 3 or 4, I'm not confident in any of these tight ends in 2025 from Dalton Kincaid, Ferguson, Goddard, or Ingram. I think all tight ends are a sell this summer.
Yeah. I would almost put in, it depends on landing spot, but I would almost slot in those rookies at like 6, 7. I think they're that good of prospects to put them over most of those guys. Like I would not rather have Jonnu over, but go to the Dynasty rankings.
Yeah, let's look at here. I just pulled up keep trade cut, and so let's move on from those tiers. I think we had a couple of guys that were a little shocking as we're looking at it from a dynasty perspective. I do like the idea of some of those guys from a 1 year buy, but I think we've really seen, and I mean we're really seeing here outside of the top 1, 2, could even put 3 with Sam Laporta, you don't have a lot of confidence. I mean, even going down to tight end 10 or 11, you got 2 guys with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews who were on the same team, and we don't know what to do with them. So maybe just taking a step back, what are your overall opinions on dynasty tight end rankings as you're kind of seeing the landscape here?
I mean, you really want to hit one of those younger guys, or try to go for a cheaper guy that can get you through it. I don't think it's smart to go and buy a Tyler Kraft or Kincaid and because they're probably going to be that mid tight end that's not going to really get your team to the next level. But someone probably wants a late first or something, maybe early second for Kincaid. And I think you kind of go with get Ertz or something for a late third, and he can, carry 1 more year for you, or go for one of those big guys or try to draft, an early guy and be that. Because there have been a lot of, tight ends come off the board early that have hit. So, everyone wants to grab that guy. Bowers comes off and he's immediately tight end 1. The year before that, McBride came off and he's immediately number 1. So, and same with Laporta, those 3 kind of in a row all came off the board and were immediate high impact, went right to the top of the rankings. So, why can't these new guys do the same?
I agree. I think if you don't have one of these top, I would say 5 tight ends. If you don't have Bowers, McBride, Laporta, Hawkinson, or Kittle, I would be looking to either draft a rookie, and it doesn't have to be Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland. I think this is a very strong, very underrated tight end class. I think you're going to see some day 2 tight ends in some pretty good landing spots. And even then, I think every year we see tight ends emerge. So don't be, we went back earlier about those 3rd or 4th round picks. Don't be shy to collect some 3rd or 4th round picks and maybe take a shot on some of these late round tight ends, some of these day 2, day 3 tight ends. But I agree, if you don't own a top 5 tight end, the only reason to really be buying a tight end is if you're trying to compete. So I would be looking, if I were to buy a tight end, a veteran that's going to get me 1 or 2 years. Mark Andrews is cheap right now. David Njoku, I think you could get for a mid to late second. We just talked about Travis Kelce. If Travis Kelce says he has one more year left, and you want to send the 212 or the 210 to go win yourself another championship, I don't hate it, because Travis Kelce is going to do a lot better for you than Theo Johnson, Brenton Strange. These guys aren't winning you championships. Even in Evan Ingram, a Dallas Goedert, Goddard maybe, but we even just talked about Jonnu Smith. PFF has him as the 6th ranked tight end as a short-term buy, and maybe someone will sell Jonnu Smith for a late second because they're a rebuilding team and they realize that he's an asset that has at most 1 or 2 years left. So I think that's the strategy. If you can't get the top tight end, maybe target one in the draft. If you like Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland, if you can afford that late first-round pick to invest in a tight end. Otherwise, snagging one at the end of your rookie draft or buying a veteran, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I would, if you're going to draft one later on, don't expect them to pop off the year one. Expect to sit him for most of the year and just flash a little bit of the potential, and that's all you're looking for. Try to go for high potential and, just get as many thirds and take a chance on these guys because, there's been a lot of – I think Laporta was a late second.
That's what I was going to say. The last 2 years have kind of tricked people into thinking you can draft a rookie tight end who's going to come in and win you a league. Laporta was not the first tight end drafted his rookie class. It was Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid was the guy. I don't even know if Laporta was the second tight end drafted. I mean, we can all look back at last year and Brock Bowers. He was a generational talent. But if you're a tight end away, once again, we brought this scenario up. Say you won a championship, you got the 112, and you're a tight end away. Now, if you have Travis Kelce, maybe you want to draft Tyler Warren and just slot him right in. As one retires, you get the next guy, and that's not a bad strategy as well. But I would hate to draft a rookie tight end and kind of put all of my chips in that basket as this guy's going to carry me in such a I don't want to call it a position of need, but a position of scarcity where having a top 5 guy can really make or break your league.
Yeah, and besides those 3 recent ones that have done really well out of the gate, most of the time it takes a few years to get going. I think a lot of people might be, buying that and thinking they want to hit that next lightning in a bottle. But, it's a rare thing. And unless it hits the right team, Sam Laporta hit the Lions. That's a great spot.
That's another
thing. I think McBride and Bowers were more, they could land anywhere and they would have been beasts because they're just special players. I think Laporta kind of was more Lions. I think Warren's going to be in that Bowers McBride where it doesn't matter where he goes, he's gonna be very good. I'm not sure Loveland's gonna be like that. I think he's more dependent on he's very good, but I think he needs more of a good spot to be in that top tier. I think Warren's gonna be in the top 5 probably rookie year. Unless he gets a very, tough situation with I don't even know. There's hard to imagine.
There are 3. There are 3 teams in the first round that are projected in a lot of mock drafts to take a tight end. You have the Colts, the Broncos, and the Chargers. I'm really excited about the Broncos and the Chargers. I mean, any tight end that goes to Sean Payton and the Broncos in the first round would immediately be a hit on my list, and I would agree. Same thing with the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Colts make me a little nervous with Anthony Richardson, but I think that's an Anthony Richardson thing. The Colts have been looking for that safety blanket at tight end. I mean, can you name me a Colts tight end? I bet you can.
What, on the roster?
Yeah.
Granson, I know.
Granson?
Yeah. Kyle Granson.
I was gonna say Mo Alley Cox.
Oh yeah, he's old. Mo Alley.
That's what I was saying. I don't even know if I can look up. There we go.
I know
tight
they
ends
have
for the Colts.
They drafted Jelani Woods in like the second round
You're
2
right.
years ago.
Kylan Granson.
Kylan Granson.
I
Jelani Woods is the guy they spent like
yeah.
second round on, but like he's not even played yet.
That's
So
another thing. Yeah, I picked up Woods. I think at the end of last season or the when 2024
yeah,
wrapped up, hoping, and then every mock draft was like, nope, the Colts are taking a tight end. It's such a position
yeah,
of need. You want to give Anthony Richardson a safety blanket.
yeah.
But that would
I
be
agree.
yeah. Go for it.
I would be scared of that. That's one of the examples where I
That
think he wouldn't hit his full ceiling,
That's what I
or
was
he
gonna
would
say.
hold,
I
he
was
would be
gonna
held back.
say, I was gonna say like a Tyler Warren goes 14th to the Colts, and Colston Loveland goes 20th to the Broncos. You know, Warren is projected to be more of the pure route runner as the tight end. He's smooth. Colston Loveland, I think, projects maybe as more a little bit more of the typical tight end. They're both very similar. But I know
Yeah,
Warren is just the better route, supposed to be the better route runner. Um, how
yeah,
would you
yes.
feel about that? Because once again, I love the Broncos landing spot.
I mean, I think I would still take talent and go Warren
Hmm.
if you're asking who would I take first. But I would not. It would be close. Like I would not be excited about the Colts. I think that would
Yeah,
help hold them back. I think the Broncos is a great situation. Young quarterback, and they don't have a ton of playmakers. They really just have Sutton. So I think they would game plan around Loveland or whoever they draft. Um, I kind of hope that Warren doesn't go to the Colts as much as they need him. I mean, maybe it would help Richardson because it's more of that short yardage. He can't hit the receivers as much. He hits the receivers long for bombs, but he doesn't do well in that like mid intermediate to deep range.
that's where it's.
But maybe he'll
Does he
do
need a
better with the
safety
tight
blanket?
ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it will help, but it would scare me. I'll say that.
I think that's the thing, and I think that's another debate for another day. Is where do you draft talent or do you draft landing spot? And I think that's something that's come back to bite people in the butt. I mean, going back to drafting CEH over Jonathan
Yeah.
Taylor because CEH went to the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's something like that we could look back and make that same comparison too. So right now, I would say that everybody has Tyler Warren as their tight end one. But Loveland is not far behind, and I do think draft capital. If both these guys end up in the first round of the NFL draft, I expect both of them to be drafted in the first round of your rookie draft.
Yeah.
Let's
Agreed.
go ahead and let's take another 5 or 10 more minutes here to sit on a couple more topics. Here's one that I've been scratching my head at. Isaiah Likely versus Mark Andrews. Both of them are back to back in the Dynasty tight end rankings. I could see Mark Andrews being traded this summer and the Ravens just focusing on Isaiah Likely being the guy. But as it sits right now in the middle of February, between Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, which one would you rather have on your Dynasty roster?
If it's for the year, I mean, I think Andrews. If it's for going forward, that's tough. I think Andrews is as good as he was. I don't think he really took that step back. I just think they started using Likely more. Towards the end of the year, they kind of shifted back to Andrews. He scored, I think, in 7 or 8 straight weeks. I think I would hold Andrews. I think, he's still in that top offense. They need someone to hold down the ground. I don't think Zay Flowers just got hurt too, right? Like, is he going to miss next year?
I don't think he's going to miss the whole season. I haven't heard that about Zay Flowers. I am a little surprised. Mark Andrews finished with 11 touchdowns. Oh my
He had
goodness.
one like every straight week for a while.
Yeah, the
Like,
last 6 games. Yeah, he did touchdown in the six straight games to finish the
yeah,
year. So finished as a tight end 5.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
yeah.
he's still in that offense. I don't see him going away as that tight end red zone guy. He's not going to put up the same numbers as he does
Mhm.
because Likely's there. So it's just, I think you gotta hold both if you have both, and pray one gets traded or an injury or something would help out. It's tough. I would say Andrews though. I would go with who's been the better player. 29's not like that old for a tight end. Kelsey's going and he's 36, so not everyone lasts that long, but tight ends can go well into their 30s.
I think that's the thing, and I think a lot of people are discounting Mark Andrews or considering that he's fallen off the ledge. I mean, if you forget, he was in a car accident like a week or two before the season started. I mean, there's a reason the guy got off to a slow start. So I'm probably not. I mean, I don't know if I'd be buying Mark Andrews if I'm competing, because I could see a lot of people selling him for pretty cheap. I could see a lot of people really concerned. I think even though he finished strong, if you had Mark Andrews, you probably didn't make the championship or didn't make the playoffs because of how poor he started in the first half of the year. So I mean, there's a chance that Mark Andrews is on a team that feels like they need to rebuild, and if you're competing, you might be able to get him for a good deal.
He got hot and carried teams down the stretch. So as long as you survive that, he was putting up zeros early.
Yeah.
And if you were starting him, he might have just knocked you out. And, the sour taste in your mouth. But he got hot, and he was, over the last – you throw out the first 5 weeks, he was probably tight end 1. He was that good. Maybe tight end 2 behind Bowers probably. Yeah. But, he was that good. He was scoring every week.
Down
He's
the stretch.
in one of the best offenses.
Yeah,
so,
down the stretch, he was really good.
Yeah. I think, a lot of that was towards an injury – in the beginning of the season as well. So, I would kind of throw out those first couple games and look at it like he got healthy, he did his thing, and he's back. It still hurts that Likely looks good as well. Likely doesn't look like a backup. He kind of looks like a co-starter. So that potential is hit. But, in that offense, they score enough to make him worth, a tight end 1. So I would keep holding him.
That's the thing. Towards the year, or for a good part of the season, the Ravens were finding ways to get both Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews on the field. So it only goes to show, are they going to continue to find ways, or are they going to transition to giving Isaiah Likely more of the touches over Mark Andrews? But I just think Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews just have too strong of a connection in the red zone, like you said.
Yeah. And what would you say, like a mid-second for both?
That's what I was trying to look here. If you include picks, the picks are all over the place with tight ends because of the gap. But we're looking at Mark Andrews, so exactly that. A mid-second is right there next to Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. So I think you're right on the money.
Yep.
And this is interesting, if you're rebuilding, I could see Isaiah Likely as a good buy, as a good young, prospect who is the only person on this website here with a plus in the direction that he's moving. He's increased 10 spots in his ranking, while every other tight end on this website has decreased rankings. Where if you're competing and you want to send a mid-second to Mark Andrews because you feel like you're a tight end away, or you want to solidify that position to go on another year or two run, I don't hate it. Tight ends are pretty cheap right now. I really just feel like everybody's selling. Really, nobody's buying tight ends. So if you feel like you have the inside, or you want to shoot your shot, now's actually a pretty good time to do it.
What about Kyle Pitts? I want to throw him out there because
Absolutely.
He's a very controversial guy. Had a high potential and. Started out great. I think he had over 1,000 his rookie year, and then since then has just kind of flattened out and hasn't hit even close to his potential. So are you still holding and hoping that the breakout's coming, or he's still only 24? So it's not like he's this old guy. He's almost the same age as some of these rookies coming in. So are you still waiting, or you think you've seen enough?
I'm still waiting. I don't own any shares of Kyle Pitts, so I don't feel like I've been hurt by him. But I think the talent is there. We've heard about the talent for years. We continue to talk about the age. He is younger than Isaiah Likely. He is the youngest tight end on this screen. that you see here at 24.4 years of age. So a lot of good years ahead of him. I think the thing that makes me most optimistic about Kyle Pitts is how well Michael Penix looked. In the fact that that offense is, starting to take shape. I think we're seeing the same thing with Drake London. Kind of really starting to be excited about the Falcons offense. For years we've been making excuses. But I think we're going to continue to make excuses for Kyle Pitts because he is so young and such an athletic freak. He's been the target of trade talks for a while. Are the Falcons going to extend him, or are they going to trade him? I mean, we just talked about the Denver Broncos drafting a tight end in the first round. Kyle Pitts on the Denver Broncos would be pretty damn sexy to me. There's a lot of teams out here that could use a big body tight end who you just tell to go into the end zone, turn around, and catch the ball. So I think in the right system, he still has a lot of potential. But I think personally, because I haven't felt burned by Kyle Pitts, I'm still holding out. If there was someone in my league that was looking to sell him for cheap for a late second, I think I would be a buyer.
Yeah. So I have Pitts in 2 of my leagues, both tight end premium leagues. So, the potential's there, but he really hasn't hit it. I've debated on selling him. The first year was a good year. Second year, I kind of throw away because the QB situation was horrible. Mariota and whoever that other guy was, I kind of just throw that one away.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, I was really expecting more, but Kirk Cousins didn't seem like himself off that off that Achilles injury. So, I kind of want to throw that one away. Penix makes me think like it's now or never. He's got to look good with Penix. Penix looks good with London. So, if he doesn't look good with Pitts, maybe Pitts is the problem. So, I'm kind of getting close, but at the same time, I'm holding strong, hoping this is the year. For me to trade Kyle Pitts, I think I need a late first, which I think is you're not going to get. So I'm not trading him. If someone's offering me a mid-second, I don't think I'm taking that. Early second, maybe I'd consider it if I have enough depth, because you can close to get like a Loveland who, I think straight up I might do, Loveland for Pitts.
Yeah. We would. I think a lot of people probably would. But I think the big thing about the tight end landscape, and we've been talking about this, is outside of the top 4, maybe even top 5, I really don't have a lot of confidence. So, I mean, top 5 veterans, you throw in Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland. Starting at Tucker Kraft at tight end 8, I have no confidence in. I have zero confidence in Tucker Kraft as a dynasty tight end. Dalton Kincaid, I have zero confidence in. You want to take the pairing of Likely and Andrews and hope that you pick the right one. That's fine. But I think that's the reason why Kyle Pitts still, to me, is a possible buy or at least a hold, because the tight end landscape as a whole sucks. Like I don't like any of these guys. Freiermuth, Cole Kmet, Jake Ferguson.
Yeah,
I feel
the
like I
potential
would
is
just
just not
rather
there.
exactly. I think for the ceiling, Kyle Pitts still shows the athletic freak of nature that he is, and the ceiling is still there to say, I can see the potential. I can talk myself into him and Michael Penix, being good and showing that top 5 potential. But you cannot talk me into Jake Ferguson having a top 5 tight end season. I just don't see it. Or Pat Freiermuth finally coming around, and breaking out. I think in 4 seasons now we've seen everything that Pat Freiermuth has to offer. So you want to take a shot on some of these younger guys from last year, a Ben Sinnott, maybe Noah Gray once again. Does Travis Kelce retire? But the tight end landscape as a whole is really weak once you get outside of these top 4 or 5 guys and these top 2 rookies.
Yeah, there's a couple younger guys that I think have just kind of under-impressed, like Kincaid, everyone thought they lost Diggs, there's a high-scoring offense, he's going to blow up, and he just didn't. And you just don't know what to do with him. So, those guys are dropping, and there's just a lot of inconsistency. Guys will pop, and then they do nothing. You're like, I started him, and he got a 0. put him on my bench and he has a touchdown. And, so those are the frustrating guys. You want the consistent guys that are, even if you're going to have 50 and 5 catches for 50, that's a consistent. That's all you need from a tight end. Most tight ends aren't winning you matchups.
Yeah.
So as long as you can get, a touchdown every other week and a 5 for 50 floor, that's kind of what you want. And I kind of think of Jonnu Smith when I'm saying that. He seems like a nice, safe option. But if you're looking for a higher ceiling, I think Pitts is what you're looking at. He's still 24. He had over 1,000 yards in his rookie year. He has the potential to do it. And that offense is explosive. They have multiple London, Bijan, so he doesn't have all the attention on him as well. So, if they're, loading the box to get Bijan, something might open up. And they're doubling London, So the potential's there for Pitts. It's just I really got to see it soon, or I'm going to start losing some faith. So
I think because of the age and the talent, people are willing to hold on for Pitts and continue to say he has that ceiling over guys like, once again, Freiermuth and Jake Ferguson. Is I think we've seen the best that we've seen, but still okay. But they're probably not winning you championships. Let me do one more name. We'll put a bow on this conversation. Wrap it up for tonight. Cole Kmet, Chicago Bears. We talked about Ben Johnson coming in, maybe revitalizing that offense. I love the idea of Caleb Williams being a buy. If anybody's scared after his rookie year, Romo Dunes being a buy, guys like that. So I do like buying some of these Chicago Bear offense now. At tight end 17, looks like Ed's keep trade cut rankings probably right around that mid to late second. What do you think about Cole Kmet as a guy who, does he have the potential like Kyle Pitts to take the next step? Can we see that ceiling, or is he going to fall into the weeds like the rest of these guys? And have we seen the best that we can see?
So Kmet has, to me, he's been inconsistent. He's had some flashes where he'll go for 100 and a touchdown, and then the next week he'll have one catch on one target. And I'm like, I don't know if I can trust this guy. And, I think the offensive coordinator is definitely a huge part. Caleb going his second year, I'm sure they're going to invest in the O-line. I would be open to adding him at the right price. Early, or I would say late second is more what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I would be okay giving up for him. Mid-second, I start to think no. I start to think that's a little – you're getting a safer guy or a higher ceiling guy at that point. But I'm open to buying him. I think the Bears are going to be getting better. They're going to be scoring more points soon. And they're probably going to have a bad or mediocre defense. So it might be, some more shootout games where they're playing from behind and – you can get some garbage points. So I'm open to it. I think he's he's still young enough at 20, a little under 26. I'm open to it. I'm not like sold on him, I'd say.
Yeah, he's one that's definitely a bit questionable. Makes me a little bit nervous. Certainly if somebody was selling for an early third, I think I would be interested. But I do think is one of the few guys on this list here, as I said, that has the potential to elevate and maybe even break out into that top 10 or top 12. He was there, as a year or two ago, I remember a lot of people were considering him one of the next great dynasty tight ends. But compared to what we see here on this list, I think a lot of the guys have kind of found their home where I could see Cole Kmet breaking out, and I could also see him crashing and burning. So someone that I would be willing to invest on with some potential ahead of him.
Yeah. For me, all players can be traded or bought, I could keep it's where they land, if you can get a slight discount, and I have that number in my head, for every player. And if I can get him slightly better value, then I think I'll buy him, that's where kind of I stand. And I'm right on that, like late second to early third. That's where I think his value and he has that potential to become a tight end one, a top 12 tight end in that offense. So
and I think
the potential's there. He's young enough.
Yeah, I think we've talked about for a lot of these tight ends, if you can get just a slight discount. I mean, if they're valued at a mid second, you can get a late second. If they're valued at a late second, you can get them for an early third. I'm right there. I'm willing to buy a couple of these guys. There's also a couple of these guys I'm probably definitely out on. But we've definitely highlighted some of the guys with some potential, so really able to take it to that next step. But this is a really strong tight end class. So just going to kind of wrap everything up here. Once again, going back to the tight ends, I started with talking about introducing the top 15, really strong class. But we got a top 6 here that have really kind of solidified themselves. Top 2 kind of first round locks. But you're going to see a lot of these names more and more over the next couple months. I do expect a lot of these guys to be drafted. I do expect this to be a strong tight end class. So hold on to some of those third, fourth round picks. Be willing to take a shot on some of these guys because rookie tight ends rarely break out. They do often take a year or two to hit, but once they do, tight ends in Dynasty it is a scarce position to kind of have someone that you can rely on year in and year out. So when you find that guy, hold on to them because they are nice to have. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap us up there. I'm going to go ahead and put on my Twitter page. Once again, if you are still listening, please go ahead and give me a follow. Please subscribe, support the page. I am a new channel, just trying to get started. Kyle, I really appreciate you coming out here, man. I really had a lot of fun today. Any final takes or any parting thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to thank you for having me on. I would love to come back anytime. It's just fun shooting the shit, talking about it. And it gives me comfortability, where my rankings are to bounce them off you and to hear where you're at and then see all these lists. It kind of gives me a good feel going into the drafts. And then I have a better feel. I'll do some more research. So, I'm sure we'll be back once it gets a little closer. I think the biggest thing is where these guys land. So, reading on who's interested in what guys, even just interest in guys, it gives a little hint of, who they're eyeing up, who they're thinking about, what positions are going to be good. So a lot more to come in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah. As we get closer to the NFL draft, it'll be really exciting to see where everything lands, how it all plays out. And certainly the NFL draft and draft capital means a lot. But I'll definitely have you on. You'll definitely be back on here again sometime this summer, I'm sure. Excited to have you back. So with that, go ahead and end it here. Thanks again for everybody for tuning in.